Welcome to Nourish Lifestyles, where we explore purpose-driven living and new ways to make a better impact in the world. My name is Rich, and I'm here to share our journey of taking our community food growing project from a grassroots concept right through to a mission-driven lifestyle brand. In each episode, I'm going to be sharing stories, insights, the highs and the lows of this journey, with the aim and the goal to really hopefully inspire people who might want to start living life with more purpose or even start a movement themselves. And in today's episode, I am joined and delighted with my great friend, Sarah Quincy from Nourish, who really has been a great friend of mine for a couple of years now. And in today's episode, we're going to share a little bit about where we are both at on our journey and hopefully leave you with some inspiration and maybe some action steps you could do if you want to get going with some purposeful living as well. So, hey, Sarah, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, this is great, honestly. So I've been saying to Sarah for quite a while now about we're starting this podcast and that I really wanted to have a conversation with you about so many things, because I don't know if you can see, but behind is Sarah's kitchen, lovely kitchen, and we often sit at this breakfast bar and we talk for hours, and you and I often say, this is a podcast.
Yeah, we could have done many podcasts.
Hours and hours of podcast. But so today, Sarah, why don't do you want to share a little bit about where you're at the moment, and then we can kind of dive into, how we came to having this conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've spent the last 4 years running a vegan catering company called Nourish, and life certainly took a turn in the last year. I'm mum to 3 boys. One's home educated and one has been diagnosed with autism. So life took a bit of a turn, and I realized that I needed to be more present at home, and Nourish had to just wait for a little bit. But in doing that, and experiencing that part of my journey, I really felt the need to start a project revolved around youth. And upon stepping away from what I was doing, I noticed the need for our youth in our community and how much lack there was. I'm at the start of what I would consider as what feels like a mountain at the moment, of opening a youth-based centre revolved around movement for our teens, but also offering alternative provisions for kids that don't cope in the mainstream schools, for kids that are just generally struggling, that fall through the gaps. So that's sort of, it's done a full 360. Getting the community on board is a big start to the project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't doubt. So Sarah is probably one of the most focused, hardworking individuals I know, and it's thanks to you, Sarah, that you have helped me and really develop certain areas within our Nourish project, because hours of audio messages back and forward, but like, oh, Sarah, this, that, and Sarah's like, come on, Rich, you got this. And very recently started an online group, an online community of people who are looking to start more of a purposeful project or business. And that idea came from the conversations I pretty much have with Sarah on an almost daily basis. Yeah. And I realized it was that trust, that accountability, and with me wanting to evolve Nourish, and then Sarah having this idea about starting her project, all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, there's a real thing starting here.
Yeah. And
it's been amazing. And just last night we held the first online call with half a dozen people. That was amazing. But it was just thanks to Sarah really holding me accountable and help installing that confidence and belief in me that actually doing it, instead of being like, I have a great habit of diving into I love details. I can dive into the details all all the time, but sometimes hide behind the details. And Sarah is such an action taker. I was like, cool, well, Sarah's got me accountable, so I just got to keep moving forward. And yeah, and here we are, and it's absolutely amazing. But so I guess the theme or an area we want to touch on today is, facing fear in the face and overcoming that self-doubt. But you do a really great job at it, by the way. That's one thing that has always struck with me, is how, you've shared a lot of stories in the past, but you deal with that really well, or at least it appears
sometimes
from the outside.
Yeah. I think people's biggest hurdle with starting a community project or starting anything that's unknown is fear.
Yeah.
And I've always had that mindset that nothing good happens in our comfort zone, right? We're not going to evolve, we're not going to grow if we're not willing to step out of that comfort zone. And don't get me wrong, because there's been immense amounts of self-doubt and fear and, the chitter-chatter that goes on in our subconscious. But what I've kind of learned in my journey with trying new things or putting myself out there is learning to observe that chitter-chatter, thanking it, and then telling it to piss off. Because actually,
I like that.
what we choose to put our attention into is where it's going to go. And I think, like you were saying about the accountability, it's also so important to have surrounding yourself with the people.
Yeah.
One, who you're going to learn off. Like it's okay not to know all the answers to everything. And having people that offer different perspectives and different insights into things is incredibly helpful when you are starting out on the path of wanting to launch something, get an idea off the ground, because when you're doing it as an individual, it can sometimes feel like the too hard basket.
Mm-hmm.
But if you involve that community or the people that you entrust around you, it can just spark those light bulb moments, and you have that penny drop where you're like, oh, I'd never thought about it from that angle, because things can be quite cloudy with the self-doubt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is a few little tools, if you like, that have really helped egg me on.
I couldn't agree more. Having that community of like minds around you, so having that tight group of friends. When I was younger, I used to be like, oh, I've got so many friends. And I still, we all have, we're blessed to all have a lot of friends. But it's that real tight core group of friends that help support you on your big mission, your vision. Yeah. I mean, I could list them off, but I'm not going to today. But it's having, I realized, it just hit me literally a few weeks ago, that core group, you and Adam, Sarah's amazing husband.
He's listing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely on that list. Yeah. Like having that place of like vulnerability where I can be like, Sarah, I am shitting myself today because I've got to do this, or I've got to make a video, or I've got to do a podcast or whatever. But having that people who just support you, even if your vision is different to my vision and this and that, and we've got different takes on stuff, creating that space. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I look at the world and I think it's designed against us, or at least certain people design stuff against us and make things feel really hard and uncomfortable. So having that group, that tight group of like-minded people around you to support you has been fundamental for me and Nick. And I often will say I'm referring to my twin brother Nick, who can't be here today. And it's just absolutely game-changing, and I value that so much. It's absolutely amazing.
I think also you mentioned the word vulnerability, which is like when you have that safe network around you, because starting anything, you're going to have those moments of like full on excitement, and that usually, you breed an idea and it's exciting, and your brain hasn't moved to the logistical part of how you actually birth this idea into a reality. And then the reality hits. And you go through the emotion of excitement to the next day, overwhelm, to fear, too. And it's like this, and just having that support network around you, and also realizing that everyone feels that.
Yeah.
You know, like everyone feels those emotions when they're starting on a journey that is scary, because it's the unknown, isn't it? And especially if you're trying your hand at something that is not maybe in your skill set. I think that's been something that I've struggled with a little bit at the start of this project. I have the vision, I know where my skill set lies, but what I've learned with running Nourish was trying to find the who's in my world that have a different skill set that can help me, because I think we also get lost in a sense of trying to do it all.
Oh, I'm guilty of that.
I think we all are.
Oh my word, yeah.
You know, and actually relinquishing control and trust, and hence where that community comes into play. You know, I'm great at networking, I'm great at ideas, and I'm great at running tangible things. I'm utterly shit at sitting down in front of a laptop for hours researching. And I know in those moments, I'm so overwhelmed. I can't, my brain doesn't like to piece it together. You know, like, you're brilliant at that. You're so good at retaining that information and getting it. Whereas my brain's so scattery in those moments because it's so hands-on. So now I've learnt to ask for help, you know, and put that ego down and ask for help. I can't do this. This isn't my skill set. And I think that helps, because you don't actually realize until you ask how many people are actually around to support a really good cause. But by being vulnerable.
Yeah. So you've got to and this is what I keep doing now, is just having these uncomfortable, hard conversations with myself and be like, is this my ego kind of taking control here? Or like, you know, and just kind of calling my bluff, and having real conversations with you has really helped kind of bring that.
And
like,
same, yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so going back to your point about being vulnerable and being more open to help, I used to be an absolute control freak, perfectionism, you know, I'm sure there's some, you know, bits and pieces tied into that. But so when it came to setting up the garden, the Nourish Community Garden, me and Nick did so much of it ourselves, and some people came along and helped, which was amazing, but I resisted help, and I was like, no, it's cool. I feel bad asking people, and also this is how it's done, and and all that kind of stuff, to the point that, you know, I probably had burnout quite a lot, where I was like, I literally cannot do this all myself. And then it wasn't until really last year, but this year is where I was like, okay, I am gonna actively relax now. Not everything has to be super neat and perfect, and I'm gonna welcome more like volunteers, which are now our friends, to the garden. And by relaxing, being vulnerable, and putting my hands up, I, or Nourish, whatever, has attracted the most amazing people that I speak to now almost on a daily basis, and we go for like walks and everything, and we hang out. But that's because I was willing to accept that vulnerability and go, okay, cool, I can't all do this myself.
Yeah.
And it's been absolutely game changing, and that really has spawned the community of Nourish Community, which is, I love that.
And it's the ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah, and that as well.
You know, I think a lot of trying to do things ourselves is attached to ego.
Yeah.
And when we, you know, there's power in numbers, and when we join forces, that ripple effect is immensely powerful.
100%.
And what, you know, with, like you said, the minute you let your guard down and you asked for help and invited more people into the community, and how many people in that part of your journey did you then inspire to go on and, you know, grow their own food, to do their own thing?
Yeah.
But when we're holding it so tightly, it's difficult. And I think, you know, one of the other things you were saying is like letting go of that perfection. And that is like, you know, and we've had so many conversations because we're wired, you know, same as you. I am prolific in the attention to detail. And my eyes, my brain, everything will notice anything that's out of place. It isn't quite. So it's been a beautifully awakening journey to realize that life is not perfect. And sometimes, actually, people don't want to see perfect because you're setting that bar so high. Actually, what it's going to do is stop the ripple effect.
100%.
Because it's unsustainable.
Completely, and it's false and it's fake and everything like that. It's unrelatable, and since kind of getting over that perfectionism hurdle block, it has allowed me to be so much more comfortable with creating more content, getting on with doing stuff like this, because I'm like, hey, this is just like step one, and the more real and authentic and genuine I am about this journey, the more relatable. And the ripple effect, exactly. And it's been such a freeing experience. Initially, it was like really uncomfortable to let go of that. I was like, shit, I can't do this. But then I was like, I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. And it's been the amount of people are like, oh yeah, relatable. Oh, you're relatable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I mean,
that's what people want.
Yeah,
that's what we want, right?
I couldn't agree more.
Relatable. When you're searching for something, you want to have that relatability with them. And the minute you're setting that bar up here,
I hate it.
People, they switch off, But on another point to like the self-doubt thing, when starting a project or starting a small business, starting anything new, venturing out on your own terms, I'd say.
Yeah.
Is a practice I found incredibly helpful in both my journey with Nourish, which I think was to have daily mantras. So I had certain lines that I would say to myself on a daily basis.
And would this start in the morning?
So in the morning. And I would write them down, and the first thing, my feet would hit the ground, and I would repeat them. And I used to do it in the mirror, which is like a really, really uncomfortable practice for anyone that's done it. But it is incredibly powerful, because what you're doing is you're rewiring that subconscious doubt in your mind, and you're rewiring it into something different. The brain believes what we tell it. So you might not believe what you're saying in the mirror, but the rewiring that's happening in the back of your brain and your subconscious is so powerful. You're getting that vibration up there. And it's what I'm now doing with my current project is I have these mantras, and when that doubt comes, the practice is to then say the mantra until the doubt has shifted. So the observation of the doubt, I say the mantra, and we move on.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's so helpful, and it's easy, and it's, for me, it's a practical tool to use. Something you can
actually take action on it. And do. It's practical. Absolutely. It's not just like theory. I'm really glad you touched on that, because I was going to ask you, how do you start your day? Well, obviously I know how you start your day, but it's also, I personally love it. And, but like, do you think how you start your day, what you feed your brain, your mind and body, plays a role in you actually 100%. Achieving stuff in the day?
100%.
Yeah.
So I think, I have non-negotiables in my life, and my morning practice is, for the last 6, 7, maybe even longer years, my morning practice has been non-negotiable. So the first thing that I do in the morning is move. I have got to move. I've got to get that blood flowing. So I hit the gym at 6:00 every morning, and then I refuel. So very conscious about what I'm fueling. Water before I've even got out of bed. And my mantras. So, you're hitting like your nutrition, your physical, if you can get outside, but I'm a bit of a wuss with that because it's cold. But having an intention for the day, and when you're doing a project, like for me at the moment, it's having bite-sized intentions each day that are like the tiny, tiny little steps. And for someone like me who likes sprints, not marathons, it's been a really good
Yeah.
practice to just this tiny little step. They turn into really big steps. They turn into then miles.
That momentum.
That momentum's moving. So each day, it doesn't feel so heavy. That also, it helps with the self-doubt, because when we start trying to tackle an entire project and all the logistics and the branches that come with it, the doubt comes, the overwhelm comes. But when in the morning you have that small intention of, what action am I going to take today to move this a little bit further? What do I need to learn today? Where am I going to focus my attention? It just solidifies things with more ease, because you're not thinking out here like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And everything's like this.
Yeah.
And when you also get that satisfaction when you've done
Yeah.
that small bit
You're
of
like-
the tick, which I love a good tick.
Yeah.
And then you look back, for me, this idea sparked about 6 weeks ago. And I had a moment this morning of self-doubt. Oh, I want it to move faster. It's going too slow. And I just want everything done now. And I was like, oh my God, but actually, Sarah, reverse backwards. That also helps with self-doubt, is going back, actually looking, wow, I'm already here.
You've
Here's
achieved
what
a
I've
lot. You've achieved a lot. And because sorry to interrupt there, but because you have achieved so much, whether or not you were aware of it, or I was maybe consciously or unconsciously aware of it, you were helping me on my journey, because I was kind of riding your momentum wave, but also it was being like, cool, well, Sarah's achieved X today. Like Sarah would send me a message, but I've just had this amazing meeting, and I was like, oh wow, Sarah's done that. Okay, well, what am I achieving today? What is my goal this week? So by you sharing your story, you literally helped me take action, set up the group, set up this, did the landing page, but it's that conscious or unconscious momentum that having that connection, that community that pushes you along.
Yeah.
And it's been, and also it's like super encouraging when I'm like, okay, cool, like I've got this big vision for Nourish, and I was like, boom, like what you're saying, you get this massive burst of excitement, and I saw how all the dots connected with this big vision for this lifestyle brand, this mission-driven lifestyle brand I really want to create for Nourish. And then all of a sudden overwhelm comes, and I go, well, how the hell am I going to do all that? But what I'm getting a lot better at doing now is, first of all, I take that vision, all of that ideas and dots, and I draw a big picture.
Brain
and
dump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've got it on my wall, and I'm like, cool, that's the big vision. Now I'm going to go back. Okay, cool. What's the next, or the first or the next thing I'm going to work on? And then I kind of go into that micro phase where I'm like, okay, cool. What am I doing this week? Okay, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And I used to try, this has really helped me, but I used to try and multitask, and it doesn't work too well for me, because I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I've got 30% here, 20% there.
Yeah.
So now what I do is, in the morning, I've also learned on my early morning walk, that's when I'm most connected. I'm not up here, I'm down here in my gut, in my intuition. So that's when I will start to really tap into, okay, what do I really need to do today? And then I have my priorities list, so that as I start my day, and maybe because of all the noise and distractions in kind of modern life, I can slip back into the analytical up here, which can often be fight or flight. Whereas in the morning, I made my to-do list when I'm coming from my gut, my intuition.
Yes, I love that.
So I'm working through my to-do list, knowing that even if I start challenging it, I'm like, well, Rich, you wrote this list. You came up with this list when you were literally in nature, and it was all coming from the gut. And that's one thing I have really lent into and started to apply, and it's really helping, by the way.
And you
It's
say
epic.
leading from your gut is, it's so easy to get lost in leading from your heart, leading from your heads, outside influences. But when I'm challenged with an idea or or an idea or a thought comes into my head, and I sit with it for a bit. And if I can feel it in here, I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
And it's really taught me to be open to change within a project.
Yeah.
Because I think starting something, I was like, right, it's like this. But actually, if we learn to trust our own intuition, and if we learn to really tune in, you know, whoever, universe, whatever.
Yeah, whatever you want to call that.
It will guide you to where you're meant to be. And that's been absolutely imperative in my journey. The one thing that I will say when I'm immensely overwhelmed or I'm really self-doubty is I almost hand it to the universe. Like I trust for the greater good of me, my community, the people that I love, that you've got me covered. And those doors will open and the right people will come. This is one of my mantras, when it needs to happen. And so it takes the pressure off.
Yeah, I love that.
My own shoulders of feeling like this is all on me. And yeah, like, I think that's probably been my most powerful mantra, is I trust the process.
Yeah.
I trust the universe to take care of all the things that this is going to need.
Yeah, I love hearing you say that, because in the morning I have like a short list of things I say just to really kind of coach and prime my mind and body like for the day. Yeah. So I'm very strict, or I say I'm very strict. There are days when I am really strict. Some days where I slip and I might use my phone before I've fully primed my mind. And the days when, say, I'm not, I can feel the distraction. I can feel how it's sapping my energy. Yeah. But in the morning, when I'm often doing my walk, I'm saying a few things and I'm priming my mind and body to be so focused and in tune with what I need to do. It really is so powerful, the words you say, even if you might not at the time believe it.
Oh,
down the line,
fake it till you make it, because your brain is
the law of repetition. It really goes in,
that.
and I just want to touch on one thing you said before that is about allowing that flexibility. Don't be so rigid on how things have to be done, because that has held me back so much. And I've wasted so much time because I've been, it has to be done like X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And it's so rigid, it's horrible. And then I don't even do it, and it creates a horrible situation. However, whether you like it or not, or whether you like Jeff Bezos or not, he's a very successful businessman. And one thing he did say was, be stubborn on the big vision, but be flexible on the details. Yeah. And I loved that, because basically by holding on to that big vision, you can, still be guided by your North Star, but you actually have, the details, be flexible, because things are going to change. So exactly like with your project, how that is going is you, even like yesterday, our conversation, there were different things that are changing and evolving, and it's exactly the same with Nourish. And I just think that's amazing.
Well, it is. And I think, when there's so much rigidity in an idea, again, you're like closing yourself off for the possibility of expanding in other ways. We have an intruder. We're filming, love.
I might not know.
No, I love this so
much.
much.
Say hi.
Hey guys, I'm just making some food.
I love this.
Can you hold fire for 10 minutes?
Yeah, sorry.
I love this so much.
This is real life.
This is
happening. Yeah. Just wait. We're nearly done.
This is amazing. I love it. Oh God, this is so good.
You've got to keep that in there.
100%. And this is exactly the whole perfection, imperfection thing that we're rolling with, because this is real life. But I do think we have covered some really good stuff. So good. I was trying to keep it together, but I was just
doing well.
kidding. You did better than I did.
Yeah, I think something sad. Okay, I'm back.
But hey, I think what we'll do is why don't we've had a really good chat about a few things. So I think what we can do moving forward is we can maybe in like a few weeks we can do another video and you can give us the update and then I'll give you the update of where we're at.
Yeah.
And that in itself is accountability, and I think it'll be awesome to hear the updates, the ups and the downs, and the real world situations of when family members need to eat because they're bloody hungry.
Because they're getting hangry. Yeah.
I love that. But hey, Sarah, it's been awesome. I've loved this,
Thank
and I'm
you.
so
Yeah, it's been
glad
amazing. Thank you.
that you're part of this journey. And there are going to be many more episodes of this, and I think Adam's going to have to join in the next one.
I think so, yeah.
Definitely, maybe the kids as well. So we'll see.
Well, it's pushing it.
All right, okay, well, one step at a time.
One step at a time.
But hey, thank you very much. All right,
Yeah, thank you very much.
amazing. Cheers.
Amazing.